sunny day. Birds were singing, kids were playing. Bob, Sue, and their dog Sparky were having a picnic. Yum, sandwiches and cookies. Suddenly a big shadow covered the park. Oh no, what was that? It was super, super big. Everyone looked up. Was it a cloud? No, it was not a cloud. It was something much, much stranger than a cloud. It was getting closer. Sparky barked. Woof, woof, he was a brave dog, but even he was a little bit scared by the giant shadow. The shadow belonged to a spaceship. But this was not just any spaceship, no way. This spaceship was shaped like a giant chicken. Yes, a chicken. A giant metal chicken flying in the sky. It had big wings and a pointy beak. It was the silliest spaceship ever seen. The people in the park pointed. They gasped. Some even giggled. A chicken spaceship? Too funny. But then, a big door opened under the chicken spaceship. Uh-oh, this might be serious. Little egg-shaped pods zoomed out from the giant chicken ship. Whiz, bang, pop. They landed all around. The egg pods opened. Green aliens popped out. Well, sort of. They didn't have legs. They were just green blobs. The green blobs got into egg-shaped robot suits. Beep boop. The robots had tiny legs and arms. They started grabbing people. Oh dear. Bob and Sue and Sparky were zapped by a sleepy ray. They were going on an adventure, a very eggy adventure. Bob, Sue, and Sparky woke up. They were inside the giant chicken spaceship. Wow, it was very strange. The walls were round, the lights were dim. It smelled a little bit like chicken soup, and also like old socks, and maybe a hint of space dust. Everything was sort of egg-themed. The chairs looked like cracked eggs. The doors were oval. Even the control panels had buttons shaped like tiny fried eggs. This was going to be a very weird trip for sure. Sparky sneezed. Achoo, space dust tickled his nose. Dust tickled his... Who were these strange aliens? They called themselves Yolkians. That sounded like egg yolk. Haha. The Yolkians were small. They were green. And they had no legs at all. Not even tiny ones. They looked like little green jello puddings. Or maybe like unripe avocados. They had big googly eyes. Their eyes wiggled when they talked. It was very funny to watch. They were not scary, not one bit. They were just squishy and very, very green. To move around, the Yolkians used special robot suits. These suits were shaped like big white eggs. Of course. The Yolkians sat inside. They wiggled little joysticks to make the egg robots walk. Clomp, clomp, clomp went the robots. Sometimes the robots tripped. Boing. The Yolkian inside would shout, cluck, cluck, bad egg bot. It was hard not to laugh. The egg robots had tiny arms. They used them to poke buttons and carry things. But mostly they used them to wave hello in a wobbly way. The Yolkians talked in a very funny way. They made clucking sounds. Bwok, bwok! Welcome, Earth Doodles, said one Yolkian. Its egg robot wobbled. We mean you no harm. Bwok! They tried to sound serious, but it was hard to be scared of someone who sounded like a chicken, and who might fall over at any moment. Bob and Sue tried not to giggle too much. Sparky just tilted his head. He thought they sounded like his chew toys. This was a very strange new group of friends, or maybe captors. These Yolkians were not mean aliens. They were just a bit goofy and super clumsy. One Yolkian tried to give Sue a space drink, but its egg robot tripped over its own feet. Splash! The green space drink went everywhere. Cluckety-cluck. My bad, said the Yolkian. It blushed a darker shade of green. Bob helped it up. The Yolkians were obsessed with eggs. Everything was eggs. Egg ships, egg robots, egg food. They offered Bob an egg salad sandwich, which was a bit too on the nose. They were just silly, eggy aliens. The Yolkians led Bob, Sue, and Sparky through the ship. The ship was huge and very chickeny. There were pictures of chickens on the walls. Big ones, small ones, happy ones, grumpy ones. Finally, they reached a giant door. It was shaped like a chicken head. Bwok! Prepare to meet, Poltra, a Yolkian announced. It sounded very important. The door opened slowly. Creak, cluck. Inside was a giant room. And in the middle of the room, oh my goodness, there sat Poltra. Poltra was a giant chicken monster. She was huge, as big as a house, maybe bigger. She was made of shiny metal feathers and glowing lights and lots of wires. She looked like a giant robot chicken goddess. Her eyes were big red lights. They blinked slowly. Blink, blink. She didn't move much. She just sat on a giant nest made of golden hay, or maybe golden noodles. It was hard to tell. She was very impressive, and very, very, very chicken-like. The Yolkians all bowed down to Poltra. "Oh, great Poltra, we bring you offerings," they clucked. Some Yolkians rolled forward. They had little baskets. The baskets were full of seeds and corn, and maybe some shiny pebbles. They put the baskets at Poltra's giant metal feet. Poltra just blinked. She didn't say anything. Maybe she was a statue, or a very quiet goddess. The Yolkians seemed to love her very much. They sang songs about her. "Poltra, Poltra, best of all. You're so feathery and tall." The whole spaceship was like a temple to Poltra. The control room was called the coop. The engine room was the egg fryer. Hopefully not for real eggs. Even the escape pods were shaped like little chicks. It was all Poltra all the time. The Yolkians believed Poltra laid the first Yolkian egg, and that she protected them from space foxes, or something like that. It was a bit confusing, but very important to the Yolkians. They polished her metal feathers every day. They really, really loved their giant chicken queen. Bob, Sue, and Sparky knew they had to escape. This chicken ship was silly, but Earth was home. "We need a plan," whispered Sue. Bob nodded. Sparky wagged his tail. He was ready for action. Said Bob. "These Yolkians love Poltra, and they are a bit serious about her. But they also seem to like silly things when they are not expecting them." Bob had an idea, a very funny idea. It was time for some jokes, and maybe a little bit of chaos. The next time the Yolkians came with their food, Bob stood up. "Hey, Yolkians," he said. "Why did the chicken cross the road?" The Yolkians stopped. Their egg robots tilted. "What? Cross the road? For what purpose, Earth Doodle?" Bob grinned. "To get to the other side," he shouted. Silence. Then one Yolkian giggled, then another. Soon all the Yolkians were laughing. Their egg robots wobbled with laughter. While the Yolkians were distracted, Sue spotted their chance. "Now," she whispered. Sparky barked happily and ran in circles around the laughing Yolkians. This made them laugh even harder. Some egg robots spun around. Some even fell over. Bob, Sue, and Sparky tiptoed past the giggling, wobbling fallen aliens. They found a corridor labeled "Chick Pods this way." Perfect. They ran down the hall. They found a small chick-shaped escape pod. It was bright yellow. It had tiny wings. "Let's go," said Sue. They all piled in. Bob found the geo button. He pressed it. Whoosh! The chick pod launched out. They zoomed through space, back towards Earth. They were safe, and they had a crazy story to tell.